The story begins with a girl named Cassie, who works as a bartender and doubles as a musician. During that time, a guy named Luke trains with the Marines and prepares to enlist in the next batch going to Iraq. At night, Cassie and her band play their covers at the bar to get some extra cash from the customers. Later, some guys from the Marines come around to the bar. Cassie recognizes one of them named Frankie and goes to hug him. Cassie loudly introduces Frankie to her friend Nora as a person she had once babysat, which Frankie tells her not to say out loud. Luke, who happens to be Frankie's friend, comes around and orders a Coke. Cassie teases him about his choice, and the other guys tease him that Cassie likes him. When Cassie comes back, one of the Marines, Armando, makes a sexual remark about Cassie that offends her and makes her leave. Luke goes to apologize to Cassie, but she doesn't listen to him because she feels he's also just trying to hit on her. He tells her they're not all the same, and they both get into an argument. Luke tells her he knows girls like her who enjoy their parents' money and talk against war and fighting while they leave soldiers like them to do the real work. Cassie tells him he's saying crap and walks out on him. Cassie goes to meet her friend Nora to cover for her, while she steps out to use her insulin shot because she's diabetic. The next day, Cassie has trouble paying for a new insulin shot at the pharmacy because her insurance no longer covers it for a couple of days. The cashier seems a bit rude to her and tells her she can only pay with cash. Cassie seems strapped for cash, so her mom, who came with her to the store, comes to give her some cash, but it's not enough. Cassie walks out of the store and tells the cashier she'll try to manage without her shot for the next 4 days, even though it's a threat to her life. Later, Luke goes for a run but is almost run down by a random car. When he is cornered, it turns out to be an old acquaintance, Jono, who reminds him that he owes him 15 grand and tells him he knows where his family is. This annoys Luke, but Jono says he's joking. When Cassie's mother goes to Cassie's home, she finds out that Cassie owes rent. She chastises Cassie for living like this and tells her to come live with her. Cassie tells her she's not a kid and she can't go backwards, but her mother tells her she's not taking things seriously. Cassie loses her cool and tells her mom she's working as a bartender, delivering food, taking piano lessons, and playing music just to try to pay her medical bills, and asks her to be nice to her. Her mom starts to cry and blames herself for not being able to care for Cassie, but Cassie comforts her and tells her this will pass. That night, Cassie goes to play a gig at the bar. She starts to get dizzy and finds her way to the bathroom. As she lies there, an idea pops into her mind when she sees a Marine sticker. The next day, Cassie goes to see Frankie, and she finds Luke at his place. Cassie bluntly tells Frankie she was hoping he'd be able to marry her. Frankie thinks she's joking, but Cassie informs Frankie she found out she had diabetes 6 months ago, and she's been struggling with paying her bills and medical debt, which is now proving to be a risk to her life. Luke, who listens in on their conversation, butts in and tells Frankie not to take the offer because he can get prosecuted. Cassie and Luke get into an argument when Luke tells her she's trying to rip off the government. Cassie says she has no issue ripping off a government that took everything away from her tax-paying mother just because they were immigrants. Frankie eventually tells Cassie he can't do it, especially because he's about to propose to his girlfriend Riley. Cassie tells him she understands and thanks him for listening to her. When Cassie steps out, Luke sees her car and realizes he was wrong for saying she's probably living off her rich parents' money. The next day, Luke goes to his family's auto mechanic workshop. He waits until his dad leaves the shop to avoid him. He meets his brother, Jacob, who hugs him and tells him their father cares about him but doesn't have the words to express his emotions. Soon after, Luke gives Jono some money. Jono becomes impatient, pulls out a gun, and asks for the rest. Luke tries to calm him down and tells him there's a girl who he plans to marry just so he can get the monetary benefits he receives when he deploys. The next day, Luke organizes a meeting with Cassie. They soon get into an argument about their different values concerning marriage, since Luke finds marriage something you do because of love, but Cassie feels marriage just turns lovers into enemies. They later come to an agreement to go ahead with the plan, and even Pinky swear to seal their deal. Luke tells Cassie they have to keep their cover while he's in Iraq, and then file for a divorce after a year. Before he deploys, Luke comes to pick Cassie up for a pre-wedding shoot. He comes into her house and learns she likes music, which gets them talking. After the pre-wedding shoot, they go to court to have their wedding, with Frankie as their witness. Frankie gives them the ring he got for Riley because he's not ready to propose to her until he gets back. After the marriage ceremony, Cassie joins the Marines in their celebration before they go to Iraq. They both try to appear to be close in front of everyone else. While celebrating, Cassie and Armando get into another argument regarding a racist comment he made. Luke steps out in anger, so Cassie follows him. He tells her Armando is an ass, but it's their last night before they go to war, so she didn't need to make a big deal about his remarks since they're all tense. When Luke notices his friends can see them arguing, he drags Cassie close to him, and they both hug each other so they look like they're lovers settling a quarrel. As is customary, each soldier's wife has to stay in the base lodge with them before heading to war. When they get there, Luke tells Cassie he ordered 2 beds, but Cassie doesn't believe him because she believes he's into her. He tells her he's not, but she tells him to drop the act and agrees that he's scared about all that is going on. Eventually, he agrees that he's scared, and they both share an intimate moment before they make love. The next morning, Cassie drives Luke to the base and watches him board the bus before he leaves. They both share a kiss for the crowd, and he reminds her that they have to keep calling each other so people don't suspect things. He tells her to call his brother in case anything happens to him. When Cassie gets home, she sends a message to Luke to tell him why she loves music. She tells him music is the only way she can express her pain since she was little, but she doesn't feel okay singing about the way she feels. So she sings covers of people's songs to avoid expressing her feelings. When Luke writes back, he tells her about his love for running and tells her he got into the military because of the example his dad showed him when he was younger. He tells her his mother got sick, and he saw his dad leave the military to take care of her. And that's what has influenced his view of marriage and joining the military, although he's currently doing it for himself. Over time, they text back and forth like this and share a lot about their life experiences, which brings them closer. One time, Luke does a video call with Cassie, and she tells the soldiers about a song she's working on. They tell her to play it, but she promises to play it when she's ready. For the first time, Cassie and Luke tell each other they love one another, but it seems partly to be to keep their cover. Later, Cassie goes to her band to work on the song which she had written about Luke. This song happens to be about people whose loved ones are away fighting in the war. Sometime later, when Cassie has a video call with Luke, she notices that all the soldiers have their spirits low because one of their men was injured. They ask her to sing her song to raise their spirits, and she does. The soldiers love it and they thank her for writing it. Days later, Cassie informs Luke that she sent her songs to a few people and her band now has a spot to play at a big festival, which makes him excited for her. Soon after, Cassie goes to play at the festival, and the crowd loves it. Meanwhile, the young soldiers patrol the abandoned streets of Iraq and go on missions. The soldiers go on another mission late at night, and some of them are attacked. Sometime later, Cassie tries to call Luke to tell him that the song she wrote for him is going viral, but she keeps reaching his voicemail. After performing at the bar one night, Cassie suddenly receives a call from the military to inform her that Luke has sustained a leg injury and is in surgery. Cassie becomes scared and frantically goes through her stuff to find the location of Luke's brother, Jacob. The next morning, she tracks down the location of Luke's dad, Morrow, while trying to locate his brother. Morrow doesn't reveal Jacob's location and tells Cassie to tell him what trouble Luke has gotten into. She eventually tells him that Luke had sustained an injury in Iraq, even though Luke had warned her not to contact his father. Morrow tells her that Luke never even told him he enlisted to go to Iraq. He wonders why the military had called her, and she reveals that she's his wife. Morrow immediately takes her to the rest of the family so they can go see Luke at the hospital. Once they get there, Luke is surprised to see his dad. His dad confronts him about why he didn't tell him he enlisted in the war, but he tells his dad he would have thought it was a bad idea and he wanted to prove him wrong. When they're alone, Cassie apologizes for reaching out to his dad and proposes they divorce so his dad doesn't get suspicious. Luke tells her his dad is already getting suspicious and they just have to keep up the cover since he's sure his father is strict enough to report them since he's a military police. Luke also informs Cassie that Frankie lost his life in the war, and Cassie runs outside to cry. After Luke's wound heals up, Morrow offers to drive them home. He also offers to come take Luke to physical training twice weekly. They try to turn down the offer, but he insists. Once they're at Cassie's home, Cassie and Luke get into an argument about how fast things are moving and how they both have to live together to avoid a court-martial. The next day, Morrow comes to pick Luke up, so the fake couple rush to arrange Luke's things in the house to give his family the impression that they're really in love. Later, Cassie goes to play a new song for a new label that's considering her. This song is about how she hates the fact that she's now doing things and saying words she laughed at before. The audience loves the song and they sign her up. Meanwhile, Luke receives a call from Jono who asks him why he's not been paying. Jono tells him Cassie also owes him since they're married. Days after, Cassie gets home and finds Luke walking with a stick, which is a great improvement. She finds out that Luke has finally fixed her doorknob, and she gives him a strained thank you. He tells her it's fine to thank a guy for help and still be a feminist, but she jokingly tells him having control issues is necessary for being smart. After some back and forth, they decide to play a game where they try to hold hot pepper in their mouth the longest. Luke loses and Cassie decides to clean him up. She tells him to take a bath and ends up helping him clean up because of the pain in his leg. In the bathtub, she tells him she sees how hard he's working and promises him he'll be able to run again. They both share an intimate moment and she lets him sleep in bed that night, but they just embrace through the night. Weeks later, Cassie follows Luke to go have a cookout with his family. While there, Jacob's wife, Haley, asks Cassie if they're planning on having kids. Cassie starts to watch Luke, and Haley says she loves the way she looks at him. At night, Luke receives a call on Cassie's phone from Cassie's mother, who called to inform Cassie that her home was broken into. When Luke gets there, he checks the house and suddenly receives a call from Jono who threatens to do worse and rat him out to the cops if he doesn't pay up. When they get home, Cassie suddenly collapses and Luke realizes she's not been eating because of the many concerts she's been doing. He rushes to get her glucose and holds her in his arms. She tells him she's finally letting him help her and has stopped being a control freak, so they both share a kiss. The next morning, Luke sneaks out to kick Jono's behind and give him the money he owes him. Luke goes to Frankie's grave to tell him how much he misses him. When he starts to cry, he gets up and tells Frankie he thinks Cassie is his best friend. When he gets home, he meets Cassie moving out. She tells him Jono had contacted her mom to tell her about how Luke owed him money. Cassie gets angry, and Luke explains he became an addict after his mom died. So one day he went into his dad's shop to steal a customer's car when he was desperate to sell it to buy drugs. His dad threatened to turn him into the cops if he didn't pay the customer back, so he borrowed some money from Jono to get enough to pay back. Luke tries to calm Cassie down, but she tells him her mother could have gotten hurt. She tells him she doesn't want to see him in the house when she gets back because they're getting divorced. Cassie goes to a show that night clearly disturbed. Meanwhile, Luke goes for a run even though his leg hasn't healed well enough. Cassie performs with so much emotion because of what had just happened, while Luke limps and runs till his body starts to fail him. After Cassie plays so well, her label tells her that a big Hollywood star wants them to perform at the Hollywood Bowl, which excites the band. Meanwhile, a soldier comes to detain Luke. That night, Cassie receives a call from Morrow to confirm if Luke's detention based on their fake marriage is true. Cassie tells him it wasn't all fate, but he tells her he thought she was finally bringing the good out of his son. On the day of Luke's hearing, Luke tells his lawyer he wants to speak to the court, even though his lawyer objects because they can win the case. Luke finally speaks and tells the court he coerced Cassie into marrying him to avoid her from being prosecuted. The judge pronounces him guilty and sentences him to 6-month detention. Later, Cassie goes through the videos of their wedding right before she goes to perform in the Hollywood Bowl. Meanwhile, Morrow tells Luke he's still getting a Purple Heart, which is a sign of honor for soldiers who were hurt in war. Cassie performs a song about how she never felt love was something she could need until someone came to love everything about her. After Cassie finishes her performance, the crowd goes wild, but she hurriedly finds her way through the crowd and leaves the show. She hurries to the military detention center, where Luke is greeting his family goodbye before he's detained. Morrow hugs Luke, tells him he'll be okay and he's proud of him. Cassie immediately arrives and tells Luke that she believes this is a real marriage because she wants to wait for him till he gets out. She tells him he wants to sleep on the floor with him when it's stormy. She wants him to be the first person to hear her songs, and she wants to be the person he runs back to when he goes out running. The whole thing makes Luke start to cry, and they both declare their love for one another before they kiss. The entire family cheers them nearby. 6 months later, Luke gets out of detention and they have a proper honeymoon where they go to the beach and everything. The end. This was really sweet movie. What did you guys think?
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.